following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to NerdProm.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds-International. With the hyphen.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys role-playing system from Fantasy Flight Games, a show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both a player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning, and with me, as always, is my co-host and my good friend and my brother from another mother, Mr. Chris Holmes. How you doing, homie?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm feeling much better recently.
That's good. That's good. You don't have to edit out your coughs.
Nope, I didn't edit them out anyway. Sorry, everybody, but I didn't. And on some muscle relaxers right now. So I'm feeling good. I got an open mind tonight. Open mind. But you know what? Kind of feeling a little naked without Stefan here.
I was going to say, I feel kind of missing, we're missing the third head to this three-headed monster.
Exactly.
Stefan wanted to spend some time with his family for the Easter holiday, so he couldn't really record with us tonight. And so we chose a topic, which kind of is coming from the before Stefan time.
Yes. Yes, so, we are. And as far as news goes, no new news for me that I saw out there. I really didn't see much other than Android, the Shadow of the Beanstalk, is still number 2 on Drive-Thru RPG. Way to go, everybody.
And still in the top 10 with it is Worlds of Android.
Yeah, you saw that too. Nice. Yeah, that's at number 7. Woohoo.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that. I'm hoping that they'll make an announcement for something else coming up soon, man. We want more stuff.
We can hope. We can
only hope.
On an unrelated to Genesys note, I picked up the Adversaries book from Star Wars. That's a pretty cool book.
Yes.
Allows you to play Jawas and Ewoks.
Tusken Raiders as well. And
I don't know about you, but
No.
Lasat. I gotta just to ask you a question. I don't know about you, but does it seem like FFG's like, I don't know, with Shadow of the Beanstalk and the way normals, average people are, and then, or whatever they're called, naturals. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the Ewoks and the Jawas in that book, they're giving everything 120 starting XP. It's like,
yeah,
suddenly that's like the magic number now. It seems. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure why everybody's getting so many XP when you're not human.
I mean, I'm just looking at my old races that I really love, and there's one of them that's like 60 earned XP, and it's like,
I think it might have something to do with
it hurts.
Well, the more stuff that really anybody creates for things, it feels like power creep to me, right? I mean,
maybe they're just getting a little more refined at it, getting better at it, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. I feel like I have to make a Jawa now. Darn it.
What, your Jawa pimp?
No, that was an Ewok pimp named Bub Rub. He only sells droids, though. Only droid prostitutes. Because he really loves machines. Didn't have them on his own world.
Wow. Well, that's nuts.
All right, so we got some listener feedback.
Yeah, we did.
All right, we got several large emails, and before I go into the one we have a long show topic, and we don't want to make every show 200, 2 hours long, 200 minutes long. we want to relax that a little bit on you guys. So we just chose one this week. So for those of you who wrote us, your entire setting document, Sam Barrett, I'm looking at you, and
we are.
And GM Gudmo, who we had a little bit of back and forth with, which found out we have a listener in Iceland. Hi, GM Gudmo.
Hey, how are you?
But we'll get to you guys' emails on the next episode where Stefan can pipe in with us. So,
yep.
All right. So this one's from Chris Allen. He said, also is Blamed Cat on the FFG forums. He says, "Hi, guys. Before I get to my question, I want to thank you for your help with my player's Pathfinder Ranger. Her owl, Hestia, has been a big hit with our group. Hestia's stats and abilities have been a great fit for the game, and the players enjoy suggesting ways to use her for encounters while keeping her out of danger. They also enjoy me acting out the owl, especially since the player has the heroic ability that allows her to communicate with animals. That's awesome."
That is. I just love it when players just kind of, it's a cooperative game that we play, right? And I just love hearing stuff like this where the group is coming together and suggesting ways to use this owl in this case. I don't know, it's cool.
Right. No, it's, again, for me personally, every time someone wants a familiar or a pet in games, it's very hard for the GM to work in. I mean, I'm having a hard time working in my son Sean's pet Varactyl in our Star Wars game. I have to design encounters a specific way to get him involved and not make it so where he hogs the spotlight. I think we're doing really good there, and I think it sounds also like Chris is doing the same thing.
Yep.
So on to the email. It says, "Now to my question. I am making a new character for another campaign. I'm struggling with a way to create weapon attacks. And when I say weapon attacks, I'm talking about the type of attacks that you'd see in a, say, God of War video game." And he sent us a link to a video that shows off a bunch of the God of War moves. "In addition, I'm looking for the following if possible. 1, to keep regular attacks relevant. So perhaps the special weapon attacks derive their damage, etc., from the weapon being used. Would strain be used to activate, or story points, or both depending on strength, blah, blah, blah. Weapon attacks would be used by warriors, not technically magic users. They won't have the magic skill starting off. And 3, to figure out a way to make weapon attacks able to grow in strength or variety later, like when you mod a weapon to make it better, etc. Maybe spending XP or something. How would you guys do something like this? Thanks again for your thoughts. Have a great night. Sincerely, Chris." Well, first of all, the reason why I chose this one, because Stefan piped in, and I get to read Stefan's response. He said, "Hello, Chris. The attacks shown in the video remind me a lot of the heroic ability Unleash from Realms of Terranoth. Do you happen to have that setting book? If not, this ability allows one to defeat a minion group by spending 2 story points, and this ability can get more powerful with time and experience. This may be a good starting point for your weapon attacks. I'm sure Chris and Tony have more to add." And Chris Allen came back with, yes, he does have Realms of Terranoth, but he wanted it to be something more frequent. He wants you to be able to, the DM wants us to make, that's DM, he used your term, Chris.
Thank you, Chris, you the man.
Wants us to be able to use the attacks more frequently and for them to be not quite as powerful as Unleash, say, or at least in the beginning. The campaign seems to have a lot more of that anime fighting vibe to it, so we might have a homebrew something. He mentioned creating some talents to accomplish this, but I'm not sure how that would really work.
That was actually my first thought when I had read that. His question, I was thinking, maybe talents could do it. But this next sentence, and what you've come up with, Tony, really...
Maybe I should pre-craft some spells and have them rely on the melee combat checks and derive the damage from wielding or something. Well, here's what I came up with. Says Chris, thanks again for writing us. I love your question. I did. I loved his question. And the idea that it may work for I have an idea that may work for this situation. And I said, when it comes to specialized attacks, create a skill that maybe it's a skill that they can buy with a tier 1 or 2 talent. I didn't put that part in there, but that would be one that maybe they don't start with this and they have to buy a tier 2 talent, so that you have it as it's not one that it's intrinsic to each class. Each class could choose different ones, and so people could take a broader range of fighting styles too. But say I used an example of a furious assault skill, and I based it on willpower. Then develop a table like those from the magic skills like you suggested, keeping in mind the following. Number 1, all attacks start at average melee difficulty. So all of the special weapons attacks are going to start like that. All of these special maneuver, combat attacks, whatever you want to call them, anything under that skill would be starting at 2 purple difficulty. Then you only need to make 1 chart per skill. You don't need 1 for attacks and 1 for defense and 1 for, you don't need that. You just need 1 chart. And then the chart would look just like one of the spell creation charts in the Genesis Core rulebook. It would have various differing things that you could add to your base attack, and it would then cost you 2 strain, and you could add this to your combat attacks. So your combat attacks or normal attacks still remain relevant and the same. And then the third thing is try to place the skill under a different characteristic other than brawn or agility. This allows it to be allows for a much more well-rounded character and keeps the plain weapon attacks potent. So you have your plain melee that's underneath your
it's linked to brawn. Yep.
It's linked to brawn. You could have this furious assault that's attached to your willpower. And then you can add talents like signature move and improved signature move in there to decrease the difficulty, indicating that you're getting better at these attacks. And you can totally customize it for each character. It allows them to have the tools to customize their maneuvers with those talents, the signature move and improved signature move. And then it also has that each class is customizable. If you keep these as a tier 2 talent that they have to take that gives them that skill, much like you would take with Bardic Verse in Realms of Terranoth and Runic Magic in Realms of Terranoth. Normally there aren't starting skills. You'd have to take a tier 2 talent to get them. So,
Yep. And my thought was so now you're probably thinking, well, what if I want to put the burn quality on a weapon? How do I get the number? Do I link it to a knowledge skill like magic? I thought you would link it to your melee skill for that weapon. Right? And so if it's melee heavy or melee light, you take the number of ranks you have in that and apply that to your burn quality or whatever.
Or if it is a really, really martial setting where you've got knowledge warfare as or knowledge fighting styles or whatever it may be, you could link it to that too. But I like Chris's original idea because then it keeps those skill synergies in there. Why would you use your base attacks if I could just do these maneuvers all the time? Well, you want to have your base attack be pretty good too, so that you can have that burn quality be 3.
Exactly. Or the ensnare quality be 3. Keep them ensnared for 3 rounds. Right. That kind of stuff. Yep.
Yeah, I like that. And then last thing I added is you could even go so far as to develop factions around these various different fighting styles, and then incorporate them into a faction/favor system from Shadows of the Beanstalk.
Ooh, nice.
Hope this sparks your interest, Chris. Let us know how it goes. Let us know what your GM and you figured out. You have anything else you want to add, Chris?
No, you guys, between you and Stefan, I really didn't have much more to add to that. And once I read your thoughts, your feedback on it, that'd probably be the way that I would go. Most definitely, I would go that way with it.
Yeah. I kind of felt like I was channeling you. I'm like, oh, how would Chris do this? So,
oh wow, well, good.
channeling my inner me.
Yeah, and then I remember I had asked you, Tony. There was this setting in Savage Worlds called Pirates of the Spanish Main that had different schools, fighting style schools, like for like your rapiers or your 2-weapon fighting and all that other stuff. And then we mentioned, the different clans from Legend of the Five Rings and their fighting styles and such. So bringing something like that into your game is always good and gives your players more options. Players like options for their characters.
Oh, heck yeah, they do.
Yeah.
That's why we made a kitchen sink setting.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yep.
All right.
So
that covers feedback for today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for the email, Chris. That was great. Love that.
It was a great email. It engaged us into it. Chris and I got into a conversation about it a couple days ago, and we really like Stefan's input, my input, Chris's input. It really came out well. I think you should definitely let us know how it goes.
Absolutely. All right, ready to hand out some 50 pieces of awesome?
The coffers are full again.
They are. So, we need to get rid of them. Okay.
All right. Welcome to 50 Pieces of Awesome. This is where Chris goes out, puts on his Batman costume, does the investigative work, and finds us something cool on the interwebs to throw money at.
Yeah.
Imaginary, like Bitcoin money.
Sure. If I had some Bitcoins, I wouldn't be working or anything like that. I'd be retired. Well, what I found out there, yet again, I'm going into this theme of picking a bunch of things and just going to throw some 50 pieces of awesome at everybody. Now, what I found were a handful of inspirational art threads on the FFG community site, forums out there for Realms of Tiernoth and Shadow the Beanstalk. And there were 3 threads created in Realms of Tiernoth, one for characters, fantastic locations, and monsters and villains by ESP77. Mm-hmm. And I believe he was inspired by 2P51 and what 2P51 did on the Shadow the Beanstalk area that has like people, and he calls it lots of guns and props is another listing, and then space, and then a naked city. And I don't know, I'm pulling up this first one, which is the characters thread, and this first one is like this catfolk primalist, picture of like somebody in, and I don't know.
That's a half catfolk.
It is a half cat folk, isn't it? But
yeah, he looks pretty damn cool, though. Yeah,
and there's 2. Yeah, so everybody in the community, or a lot of people in the community, just throws some of their favorite art up there. And myself, I like looking for art, and then I'm inspired to create a character. And I based, like my last character, I based Zszree on the piece of art that I saw. And I'm like, wow, cool. Okay, he looks like I'd like to make him like maybe into a Templar or something, just gets the mind juices flowing, right?
Sure.
And then these fantastic locations. I know every once in a while I'm just, if I'm bored, I hop on my phone, hop on Pinterest, look through lists. I'm like, okay, I'll add that to Primordial Machina. And then I think it's like 2 minutes before that, I think Tony may have saved the same art, so, I mean, that's what I've noticed, some of that. But, all of these fantastic locations just really starts I could totally create an adventure in this area and whatever. So,
being a visual person, being a visual GM, I don't use a lot of maps, but I do use picture props all the time.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And so always searching for inspirational art. And I see a couple of pieces that I pinned it right in our Primordial Machina thread already. So that's awesome. This is a great idea. And I that's one of the things I love about FFG's forums is that there's so many good things on them.
Yeah.
So
there totally is. And I'll tell you, I really do like the space one. If you go to the space one, probably I'm thinking it's probably on this first page towards the bottom a little bit. It's that picture. There it is. 2P51, put it in there. The FedEx Express.
Yeah, that's the one I used to describe where Daryl used to work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Daryl worked for FedEx before. So, I don't know. These, there's a couple, and then the next one right underneath that is, a couple of ships taken off from Luna. It looks like, I don't know. Just all of these just inspire me to game, get me excited to game, get me excited to create, adventures and such. So kudos to all of you out there that have shared what art
Whoa. Oh, you can't be giving kudos.
No, I'm leading you into it.
Okay.
I'm teeing you up, Tony. So, Tony, without further ado,
ESP77 and 2P51 and all the others that have contributed, as well as the amazing artists that continue to do this, we give you 50 pieces of awesome and some kudos on the side.
Yeah. You can't spend the kudos.
No, you got to eat those.
You got to eat the kudos. They're chocolate chip. All right, let's get into the meat of this thing.
All right, what are we calling this show?
What are we calling this?
Does this smell new?
Yes, it kind of does. All right. Okay, everybody, we are back into the meat of the show here in the books of Genesis. So, open up your core rulebook to page 197. Or page 199 if you're in the PDF like myself. And we're gonna build some gear. And specifically tonight, we're gonna be building some pieces of gear for our Primordial Machina setting, and how you all will go about doing it. So
now, one of the things I did when we first started playing during the playtest, I just reskinned a bunch of gear from other settings and systems.
Mm-hmm. And I'd say probably about 90% of your gear will be reskinned, right? I mean, how many times can you create an axe?
That is the easiest way. Before we go into the the nuts and bolts of how to create something, the easiest way to get something into your setting that seems unique, flavor it differently.
That's right.
It's still an axe, but if you call it something different, a bardiche.
Yeah, it's just basically an axe head on the end of a pole arm.
There you go.
The end of a spear. I mean, that's what a bardiche is, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So, again, just name it something different. Make it look different. That's it. I mean, it doesn't even have to be different stat-wise. I guarantee the blaster pistol that I made for Jen's Artificer for her implement, the Artificer's blaster, I just copied a blaster over from Star Wars.
Yeah,
that's it. So, but anyhow, I just wanted to throw that out there as a first and foremost. Yes. The easiest thing to do, reskin it.
That's right.
But if you can't, or you've got some interesting little things you want to add, little nuggets like we're going to make today, little things that might not exist in another setting besides our Primordial Machina setting.
Exactly.
One other kind of audible. Also, we did incorporate all of the stuff from Agents of Steam in this book, also in our setting already. So search for stuff that already exists. Then if it exists and it's different, reskin it. And then if it's not, create it. There we go. All right, sorry.
Yep.
All right, so we're on page 197, and I guess it starts with some questions on when you're, gear with specific rules and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And we're doing a piece of gear for Primordial Machina for this. What are we doing? We're doing the...
you want to do the piston hammer to start with? Do a weapon?
Well, do you want to do bounce around, or do you want to start at the beginning? Because it kind of goes in a reverse order from what I have our notes kind of in the book. It goes gear first, then armor, and then weapons.
Oh, it does? Sure. Yeah, let's do gear. Let's do the gear. What piece of gear have we chosen? Okay,
so I've chosen this awesome looking kind of backpack apparatus and kind of helmet piece.
That's cool.
And it's called an environmental adaptation harness.
Sweet.
It allows non-amalgams to move around freely in manifest zones without suffering harmful effects.
There you go.
So it's not a piece of armor. It's more like
it's a backpack kind of thing. Yeah.
A suit with a adaptive, specialized, steampunky backpack on the back of it. Mm-hmm. So, all
cool.
Right. So you get into the nuts of it here. So I'm just going to read this one sentence because it's very important.
Okay.
Other pieces of gear we call right tools for the job. These are items that you need to perform a particular task. Like role-playing prompts, these just need a description of what the character can do. However, for example, a respirator and an oxygen tank will let a character survive underwater for long periods of time. Without them, the character would drown. So that's pretty much what we're creating here. And so all you do is throw in the descriptive paragraph, what it does.
Yep. And you have a good start to it here. Allowing non-amalgams to move around freely in manifest zones.
Correct. Now, I would put in some specific rules that apply to it, though, because you want some limitations. And so that's why it kind of comes into the second type of gear that's listed on 197 here, where it's gear with specific rules.
Yes.
So some gear comes with a special in-game mechanical modifier. However, since gear can refer to anything that isn't a weapon or a piece of armor, guidelines for creating those mechanical modifiers are fairly broad. Creating too many pieces of gear with specific, unique rules. So what that means is you don't want to add a shit ton of stuff that has specific rules. Like their example here, drinking a cup of coffee gives you a boost die for 1d5 hours. Woo! No, you don't want that in your setting. So you got to watch for that. And then the second thing that it tells you to watch for, what's that, Chris?
Actually, I went to another page. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Second thing that you have to look for is, are you talking about make sure the rules interact with existing game mechanics?
Yeah.
And you don't create one, and that's what I was just looking at right now. So specifically for our environmental adaptation harness, we're talking about environmental effects and what is the mechanics behind that. So if we go to page, and this is where I was just at, if you go to skip back to page 111, there is specific. So our manifest zones are going to be fire, cold, not fire. Our manifest zones will be the elements like water, fire, air, and earth, right?
Correct.
So we want to kind of do something. So there's this water and swimming in a vacuum where you wouldn't be able to breathe. But I'm looking at this fire and acid corrosive atmospheres. There's a mechanic here that, based on the rating, that's the number of wounds they would suffer every round. And they'd be hard to breathe, in these atmospheres and whatnot. So I'm not sure what we were thinking of for this.
Well, what I was going to tell you is that when we got into it, the nuts and bolts of it, it sounds like we need a separate environmental adaptation harness for each manifest zone, since they have different effects. For instance, the one that is for The water manifest zone would be able to have its own oxygen supply. It would be able to allow you to move freely, and it would allow you to not suffer from the pressures of the deep ocean or the cold of the deep ocean.
Gotcha.
And then likewise, one for fire zone would be
like a fire suit.
Would basically give you a environmental soak versus fire effects.
There you go. Yep.
And and then, you know, of course, you could even have ones that are for each, and for these manifest zones, you could have some that are stronger than others. You have weaker ones. You know, one that's superior quality might be one that could take you through an up to rating 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Manifest zone, whereas a lesser quality one could only take you to a rating 3 to 5 manifest zone. Yep. So we could totally have these pieces of many different levels here. But the point is that they play with the existing mechanics.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then there's the suffocation rules. I could see us because, you know, if we're talking about an air manifest zone, right? If you're going into thin atmosphere or basically not able to breathe, or the complete opposite, breathing too much. I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not sure how the manifest zone would really affect that. So
it could work for being smothered in an earth zone, where you're smothered by sand or some other thing in an earth manifest zone. So suffocation would be an issue in any one of those zones, really.
And then maybe in the earth manifest zone, in that adaptation harness, maybe there's a more superior quality of that thing gives you a burrow quality, like you're able to burrow through the earth, which with just small, minute vibrations, you know, where you can just kind of move through the earth if you wanted to, or something.
Right on.
A lot we can do there, man.
Yep. And then, so the last thing that this section on page 197 talks about is it's better to reduce penalties than add bonuses. So we recommend this because reducing penalties means you reduce the complexity of a task. Removing setback dice from a pool is a very good one. It increases a character's chance of success while giving them fewer dice to roll.
Ah, there you go.
Decreasing difficulty of checks is another example.
Cool.
And then it tells you what level of encumbrance you should probably give items. And again, we'll go back to the rule of thumb that they had in the gear section, which was that gear should never have more than an encumbrance of 5.
Right. Yeah, so something like this, I would think, would have an encumbrance comparable to like a backpack, right? Like maybe a 2. Maybe a 3. Yeah, 2 or 3.
Since it covers the whole body.
Yeah.
So, and so...
But then again, you're wearing it.
Exactly.
Like armor, so does that reduce it?
Yeah. Well, and that's the other rule. Do we decide whether this can be worn with armor? Can this be an armor attachment? Those kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
So I think if you're wearing one, you would have to take your armor off to wear one.
Or you'd have to have like something like maybe heavy clothing would probably be... Like I'm looking at this picture here.
So it couldn't be worn with heavy armor.
Probably not with this lead-plated heavy trooper armor. But I could see it. I could totally see it being an attachment, though.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think that covers it. So the environmental adaptation harness is going to be something that we'll write. We'll write several different things in the paragraph, but really, it's a one-line item. It'd probably be pretty common, because it's all about exploration of the manifest zones. We'd probably make it a rarity 4 or 3.
I would think I would. Maybe the more complex ones. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe the one that allows you to burrow might be a more rare one. But other than that, I mean, because our setting, one of the themes in our setting, we go back to our brainstorming, right? One of it is exploration. Like you said, so you'll want to make those items that allow them to investigate, explore, easier to get.
Right, and doing that with rarity, and also reducing the cost. since these things are very common, it's okay to have these things, even though it's a real complex apparatus, it's only a couple hundred credits.
Yep. Yeah,
or in our case of our setting, we were calling them crowns. A couple hundred crowns.
There you go. Yeah. And they'll probably cost less nearer to the manifest zone, an area, a city that's closer to, say, the air manifest zone, right? The air adaptation harnesses would probably be less.
Of course.
And the other ones would probably be more expensive. So we could play around with that too.
Yep.
So, cool.
Alrighty then. All right, so moving on. Next section,
we're going to talk about armor.
Ooh, yeah.
And I love this piece of art you have here. This heavy trooper armor.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet, dude.
Thank you.
It's, so one of the things you have to worry about, and what could be, not saying game-breaking, but unbalancing, is if you don't get the soak and defense right, it might make for a more interesting game, if you will. Yeah. And in here, so I'll talk about soak real quick. And soak, that's the rating that which you would reduce. When damage is coming in, you would reduce the damage by your soak, and this gets added to the soak value of your character, which is based on the brawn rating. And you really shouldn't. These numbers should be between 0 and 3. Anything higher than a 3, you're gonna be getting into that. Oh my gosh, he won't take any damage. And by the way, there are talents that will increase this value too, and that's why you want to bound it on the item to this. And there might be some attachments that will increase soak as well. So, so got to keep that in mind when you're picking a soak value for things.
Sure.
What do we have next here, Tony?
The defense. So armor is less likely to have a defense than a soak. It's less common. You don't see it in the lower level armors that you usually buy at character creation. If you do, it's usually only got a rating of 1. This goes back to the goal of keeping dice pools under control. Since defense adds setback dice to a dice pool, it can contribute to making a dice pool unwieldy if the defense is too high. That's why there's a hard cap of 4 across the system. 4 setback dice for defense, whether that's accumulated from defense of holding weapons, defense on your armor, or defense from cover. Grand total 4 setback dice from defense. It's true that soak is more reliable than rolling. However, soak just mitigates the damage on successful hits. It has nothing to do with creating threat. That's why defense is a little bit more powerful. Threats stop critical injuries. That's why it's important. And also, threats can't be ignored by soak or breach. That's why defense is a little bit better.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So if the thing doesn't hit you, because your four setback dice for your defense generated 8 failures.
Right.
You're that lucky, right? It'll be tough.
Yeah.
And then again, we have a then we go into encumbrance again, and you'll want to keep this value between 2 and 5, with 5 being the armors that have the higher soak, that have a lot of soak, like probably this. I'm looking at this armor, the picture of this armor that you have that we're going to build up. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of soak. It's going to be heavy.
I'm looking at full plate mail and Terranon as an example.
I was going to bring it up too. Yep. I was going to say that too.
Just as an example, it has an encumbrance of 4.
Yeah, see, there you go. And then when you wear it, you subtract 3 from the encumbrance when you've actually donned your armor. Yep. So go ahead. Okay. What next do we have to consider here when we're creating armor?
The next item you consider is the special rules and item qualities. So generally, armor doesn't have a lot, as many qualities as weapons do. But there are a few, and it's very important to keep in mind the few that it does have, particularly the reinforced quality. Because the reinforced quality is such a huge deal. It renders pierce and breach worthless.
Yeah.
So not only is that rare, but it's extremely costly.
Yep.
To add to your armors. If you design a special rule, consider something like stealth penalties, found in fantasy armor on page 145.
Yeah, you're not going to be very stealthy with their plate mail.
Or perhaps coercion checks, a boost to them for very frightening armor sets, like an armor that's made from the bones of people. That might actually add to your coercion. Mm-hmm. When you design these special rules, use the same guidelines that were on the previous page, which is try to take away setback dice before you add boost dice, try to play with the existing mechanics of the game, and don't go overboard.
Exactly. Now, what I like here, when we're talking cost and rarity, they have a really nice table here, 1-1, armor cost calculations. Mm-hmm. And then just use values as far as the rarity goes, as kind of a baseline. Kind of compare, like for instance, we're going to be creating this heavy trooper armor, right?
Right. And now I have images, just so you know. These images, I will put these on our Facebook Facebook page in the episode when we put it up. The images will be in there. They will be in our MeWe. We'll put the images out there for you guys to see of the stuff that we're making, just so you know.
Yeah. So, if you want to compare, like, hey, I have a suit of this leather armor versus this full plate mail armor, you can look at the rarities. Who knows? Maybe metal isn't as rare in your setting, and leather is more rare. I don't know. It just all depends on there. But these armor cost calculations, this is a really neat table where you would just go in there and go, hey, so if you add 50 credits, in our case crowns, 4 plus 1 defense.
Nice.
Plus 4 defense would add 5,000 to the cost of the armor. And we just build up the armor as we go.
Nice.
So let's try this.
All right, so what we're building, before you all know, what we're building is Praetorian heavy armor. Mm-hmm. Now, the Praetorians are the vast army of the city of Calder, which is basically the human supremacists of the volcanic region or the fire manifest zone on the west or the eastern border of our world. And they're basically stormtroopers. Yeah. And they're undead supremacists, not human supremacists.
Right. Undead fire Nazi supremacists.
Right. Because every system is better with Nazis.
Yep. And pirates.
You got to have somebody to hate.
And ninjas. If you have all those, you're set.
Damn Skippy. All right. So these heavy Praetorian armor, it is what it is. It's what it says. It's heavy. Mm-hmm. So right away, I know I'm going to make this a 4 or a 5 in encumbrance before I even get into anything.
And that's based on just thinking of. So your first thought there, Tony, was, hey, this looks like full plate mail. Does full plate mail exist somewhere? Yes. In Tiernoth.
So when I looked at that, full plate mail has a defensive 1, a soak of +2, an encumbrance of 2, hard points, which we haven't gotten into because the system really doesn't get into hard points, which is something we'll cover when we go into our crafting show in a few episodes.
Right.
But it has 2 hard points. It costs 1,000 credits and has a rarity of 6. Mm-hmm. So let's start with this heavy Praetorian armor. Again, like I said, definitely going to be heavy. So I want it to be. It looks like it's more bulky than even a full plate mail.
Yeah, I'm thinking this soak of 2 might be a little light.
Yeah.
And the encumbrance of 4 might be a little light as well,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's a kind of like plate mail dialed up to 11 in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's not quite power armor, but it's very heavy.
So are we talking, do we want to take almost the maximum of these values for soak and defense for this armor? Is that what
I don't
we're
think we
thinking?
have to go that high with defense.
Maybe
what
2
I was thinking,
instead of the 1?
What I was thinking was 2 in defense,
3 in soak?
A 3 in soak, and a 5 in encumbrance.
Perfect. So then what does that give us when we calculate it?
Okay, so calculating its cost. So a 2 in defense, it says here on the chart, table 3, 1-1 armor cost calculations, a +2 defense is 500.
Ooh, not going to be getting at a character creation.
No. You're probably going to only get this by peeling it off of the corpses of dead Praetorians, if you're lucky enough to take out the heavy Praetorians.
Yeah.
And then a soak of 3 has 1,000.
Oof. So 1,500, boom, right there.
Now, the -1 encumbrance, -2 encumbrance, -3 encumbrance.
I think it's one of the there's a that would probably be coming in where, hey, if we use if the base is like what like 5, right? But then if you make this Praetorian armor with like a lighter alloy, then it would reduce the encumbrance, right? Is that what that's meaning?
I think that what is so if you make an armor that is only 2 encumbrance, when it's worn, it is 0 encumbrance, so therefore it has a -2 encumbrance rating.
Oh, I understand.
So basically, anything 3, 4, and 5 will have the same cost.
Okay.
So it's a silly way to write the chart. I don't know why they did that, why they didn't just go 1 encumbrance, 2 encumbrance, and 3, 4, and 5 encumbrance, but whatever. That's my take on it, I'm guessing. Maybe that's a question for the devs themselves, but...
that's true.
I can't see... Let's see. It doesn't say anything about it in the paragraph. So anyhow, I'm taking it that way. So that adds another 500 credits to our value. We're at grand total 2,000 credits, or 2,000 crowns.
Gotcha.
For a suit of heavy Praetorian armor.
Because when you wear it, the encumbrance will be 2?
Yes. It'd be 5 minus 3 for a total of 2. That is my guess.
Yeah, that's a little confusing. If anybody else has any ideas on it, let us know.
Calculating cost for your new item, starting cost 0, use values on the baseline. It doesn't really say.
It really doesn't. And I don't know. My first thought at that was, if you have something at a certain encumbrance, right? Like the base value of it is like, say, your leather armor is whatever. But if you create another item that's 1 less than the basic leather armor, a -1 encumbrance that's lower than that, you increase it by...
You bring up a valid point, Chris.
You bring up the... So here you go then. So our Praetorian armor, that's 5 encumbrance. If we create Praetorian armor that's 2 encumbrance, that's where you add the 500 in, maybe.
Yeah, you have a valid point. I think...
That might be it.
I think that's probably it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go with
it. We'll go with that.
We'll go with 1,500 gold crowns, or crowns.
1,500 gold crowns. But, dude, this armor looks very reinforced to me.
It does.
That Praetorian armor looks very reinforced to me.
Yeah.
Let's add another 3K to the cost of it.
Okay. So we're going to add 3,000 to the value of it, and it now, because of the reinforced quality, so it's now immune to breach and pierce. So Damn!
Do we have any other positive qualities?
Yeah,
This
superior.
is probably superior, yeah. And what does superior do for armor? Let me look. We should have known. We went through all of them last time.
Can't remember them all every time, buddy. We are older folks.
Well, we are. Superior on superior item sterling. Superior item generates automatic advantage on all checks related to its use.
So when you're, doing things in your armor, you automatically are going to add a. I don't think. No, there's no way. I think we should just leave it at reinforced.
Yep. Reinforced.
Yeah. Now I'm creating a special rule. If you wanted to create a special rules for it, you could even give it more hard points or things like that. But I think this right here, a good solid framework. It's 2 defense, 3 soak, and reinforced quality. And, then any Praetorian helmet can be worn with it. And, you can get one that's environmentally sealed and so on and so forth.
Cool.
All right.
I like it.
All right.
Did you write down those stats?
Hell no. They're recorded for posterity.
Hang on a minute. Let me add it because we might have to for something here. If you didn't read what we're going to be doing for.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. There we go.
All right. Good stuff. Okay. All right. So, yeah. Moving on into the weapons section.
Yes. Creating a weapon.
So the first thing it talks about is the general attributes. Surprisingly, ranged and melee weapons share a lot of the same attributes. So first, we'll discuss the attributes that apply to both. Starting with critical rating.
Yep.
When choosing a crit rating for your weapon, consider how lethal you want the weapon to be. Crit ratings range from 1 to 6. Values of 1 to 6 are very rare, or 1 or 6 are very rare, since to generate that much 1 advantage is often and almost is too often, and almost never will one get 6.
Well, I don't know. The other night, somebody generated like 8. Right,
8 advantage on
8
one.
advantage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
But they had no successes, so they still couldn't have crit.
Yeah, exactly.
So the average crit rating is considered a 3. This should probably be your default for most weapons, and it makes critical injuries rare enough to be an event when it happens. But still common enough you can get a couple times in a single encounter. A crit rating of 2 should be applied to more deadly weapons that are sharper or have more teeth, so to speak.
Yep.
And a crit rating of 4 is a weapon that is really going to inflict a lasting or immediately lethal injuries less often. And a crit of 5 or higher usually means the weapon is almost never going to inflict a critical injury, such as, like a taser. It doesn't really crit.
I mean, I think just by default, unarmed attacks, if you're just going to punch somebody, it's a crit 5. If you want to crit them, you'll have to generate 5 advantage for that.
Yeah.
So, and then when you look at your encumbrance, brawling weapons, they say, should have an encumbrance of 1. Those are like your what do you call it? Like your knuckle
brass
busters.
knuckles.
Brass knuckles, yeah. Your steel gauntlet, right?
Yep.
Melee light weapons and range light weapons should have an encumbrance of 1, maybe 2. If it's a heavy blaster, maybe I don't know.
No.
Or a bow, or like a light crossbow. I don't know if they use ranged heavy or ranged light, but maybe that would be a 2. And then your melee heavy, your ranged heavy should have an encumbrance of like 3 or 4. And I do say gunnery weapons can have a lot of encumbrance, as much as 8 or 9. So so if you want to have your dude carrying around a cannon, right?
Sheesh.
It's going to be heavy.
Yeah.
You're right. And then those, like say I was watching the Pacific on Netflix or something like that, and the Marines were carrying, one guy was carrying the tripod, and the other guy was carrying the frickin' gun for the M60. I think it was an M60 that they were using, the big SMGs that they used over there walking through the jungles. So, those are your gunnery weapons, where you have two people need to carry the thing if you're walking through the jungle or something. So, and again, when you think encumbrance, it's not necessarily weight, it's bulk, right? It's like how bulky the thing is. So, then what do we have?
Okay, we have rarity and cost. As with armor, the Table 3 1-2 weapon cost calculations does not give you the perfect means for calculating cost. That means you can tweak them a little bit. All we intend to do is give you a starting point. Cost should always start at 0, and your rarity, of course, is entirely up to you, as per it is with everything else in the setting, or in here. It also has a sidebar up top here for base damage. Remember when you set a damage for a weapon, it's only its base damage. When a character uses a weapon, they add additional damage based on the number of uncancelled successes they generate, and you should think of each weapon as dealing 1 to 2 more damage on the average than is its listed damage value.
Yep.
So
that's a good point.
Just keeping that in mind, because most attacks are going to, every attack that hits is going to regenerate at least 1 more damage. So the average ones are going to generate 1 to 2.
Yep. Yeah.
So, all right. So what are we building?
We're going to be building a piston hammer.
Nice.
So immediately what I thought of, go over to Realms of Tyranoth. And guess what, everybody? I'm going to be picking a great battle axe. No, I'm sorry. A warhammer.
Oh, I thought we were choosing a dagger as our base. Darn it.
Yeah, dagger as a base. That's right. So a warhammer here is going to be heavy plus 5 damage. So you're going to be adding 5 to your brawn. The crit rating is 4, so it's not an average crit rating. It's going to be a little harder to crit with this thing.
Gotcha.
The encumbrance is 4. Makes sense. Big ass thing. I think that's what it was. Yeah, encumbrance is 4.
That's our base values.
That's our base value. And then the special qualities. Concussive.
Of course.
1, which concussive means they can't...
It'll stagger someone.
It'll stagger somebody for 1 round. Cumbersome 4. You need a 4 brawn to not take any penalties. It's inaccurate 1, which means you're going to be swinging it with a setback die all the time. And it has the knockdown quality,
Nice.
which means if you generate 2 advantage, you can knock somebody down. A medium-sized creature, silhouette 1 creature. Sorry, I was playing D&D Friday night. If you want to knock down a silhouette 2 creature, like probably your ogres or your larger, maybe somebody in power armor, right? You're going to need 3 advantage to knock them over to activate that.
Nice.
So that's actually a good start for
That's
a
a
piston
great start.
hammer. That's actually, but what does the piston part give us though?
So I have this.
What do you?
I have this spring-loaded kind of feature to it where it's going to add extra damage, right?
Oh my gosh!
Or it's going to add. Now, this is the thought I had. It adds the blast quality to a melee attack.
Oh, you can activate. Oh, I like that.
But it's going to have a prepare rating because you've got to load it. You've got to crank it.
Well, here you go then. Here, let me ask you something. So, though it has a prepare quality, if you hit somebody, activate blast, right? And then in order for you to use blast again, you have to do the prepare, which is what, a maneuver, probably, to reload it?
It takes 1 maneuver to
question, will you be able to use it without that? Without being without
it
reloading.
would do the base damage.
Right.
You would not have the blast quality. So
if you choose not to. Yeah, I like that idea a lot, actually.
It would basically look just like your regular average Warhammer in the stat block, in the chart. However, in the paragraph where you describe it, because in some of these that we are talking about, and this is why I chose this item, in the descriptive paragraph, we're going to put in here that a fully prepared piston hammer or a loaded piston hammer will have the blast quality. And we probably should go with blast 4.
Okay. And prepare 1 or 2?
I like prepare 1.
Okay.
But what do you think? One maneuver to reload?
Here's a question. It does get into it does kind of get into that. Because then they want to use it again. They can use it every round, but here's a question. If we do prepare 2, they would still be able to use it every round.
But it would cost strain.
It would cost strain, and they wouldn't be able to aim with it.
Yeah. So, and I kind of like prepare 2.
Prepare 2, in order to use it every round, you need to spend strain. Now, with Prepare 1, you'd still be able to attack every round, but if you want to aim with it, it would be more stressful, because you'd have to take another maneuver.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? I like Prepare 2. Let's throw Prepare 2 in there.
Okay.
Why not? That's cool.
And that's it, really.
Yeah. So let's see how close. Let's see if they followed their own pricing.
You guessed what I was going to do there.
Oh, sweet. See, we are. You are my brother from another mother. Well, okay. So everybody. Right, so the price is $600.
All right.
That's what they have in Tiernoth. What do we come up with, Tony? Let's see what we go through theirs.
All right. So starting the damage.
Yes. Oh, there's a paragraph for that. Did you find that one?
No, I did not.
Okay, so there is so what they did say, when you are the brawl weapons on damage, page 201, most close combat weapons, they say, that's like the second sentence. Actually, it's pretty much the last sentence in that first paragraph. When you're determining damage rating, mentally add 3 to the value you're considering to determine actual damage. Most melee-focused characters have a brawn of 3. Right?
Gotcha.
So in this case, our damage would be plus 5, so that'd be 8.
So we're going to have starting price of $500.
Oh, you guys...
Maybe.
We'll
because
see.
some of these reduce the quality. So we have $500 starting price. All right. Now we get into the crit rating. Crit rating is 4. So that's going to add 50.
Right.
Okay. And then the range. Now, is there a comment on range?
No, ranges won't add anything for us because we're engaged.
It's engaged range, so plus 0 for range.
Got it.
And then...
Oh, here we go. That's
cumbersome and unwieldy. So
cumbersome 4
subtracts 100 per rank beyond 1. We have cumbersome 4, so we're going to take 300 off of that.
Oh.
So we are now back down to 250.
Maybe they have followed their own guidelines. We are testing you, FFG. Burn, ensnare, and linked qualities, no. Defensive deflection, no. Disorient, accurate, stun qualities, no.
Right, so
concussive quality, though.
Concussive adds 1,000 per rank, and it has concussive 1, so we're at 1,250.
Yep. Other positive qualities.
Knockdown is not listed.
Yep, so that's a plus 100 for knockdown.
So we're at 1,350.
And then we have inaccurate 1.
Which is minus a negative.
75 or 100?
I would say 100.
Man, I'd say minus 100 because that's a setback die every single time.
1,250.
And then the melee or brawl weapons reduce the cost by 50%.
By 50%. So that would be 625 credits.
Oh, they are so close. Way to go.
What? But they said right here, this is not hard and fast, and it requires some tweaking. Maybe they tweaked for Terranoth being a little bit lower money setting.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, I think they were in the ballpark. I think if you're within, within 50 to 100 credits of a base value there, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, there's 625.
So now ours is 625,
mm-hmm.
and then we add in the conditional qualities.
Yes.
The additional.
Other positive qualities would be 100 per rank or 250.
Well, Blast is pretty nasty.
Mm-hmm.
I say 250 for Blast, just for Blast.
I think so too. Yep. Plus 250.
So we're at 875.
Mm-hmm. And then Prepare 2
is negative.
I would almost do the whole... I'd almost do a negative 100, maybe even a negative 200, because it's Prepare 2 instead of Prepare 1. I don't know.
Prepare is... I don't know. I like
negative
idea.
70. Oh, it says negative 75 per rank. Actually, I like the negative 75 better.
So minus 150.
So that's
giving us a total of 725.
So we can either round down or we can leave it at 725 for the cost of this. 725 feels pretty good.
725 does feel good. It feels like it's better than your average Warhammer, and you're paying that premium.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even go so far as to increase its rarity. Your average Warhammer is a rarity 3. I would say ours is more like a rarity 5.
5, yep. I was thinking 6, but 5. 5 or 6 would be good. Yep.
Depending on where you're at. Obviously, it would be its standard rarity would probably be 5, but that's what you would find in a flourishing market. Whereas your frontier areas, you're not going to find it for that. It's going to be much more.
If we have one go back here, what did we say the rarity of the Praetorian armor would be?
Oh,
did
that
we
was.
Talk about that?
I'm sorry. That would have been like a 9.
A 9. Would it be
finding one of those on the black market, or finding? It's also going to be restricted.
Yeah. So capital R, restricted.
And a rarity 8 or 9, and the reason I say that is because the Praetorians, you don't see the heavy Praetorians very often. You usually only see the regular Praetorians, and their armor's a dime a dozen.
Right. You probably won't be buying that armor. You'll probably be going out, destroying some of them, and then taking their armor from them.
Yeah.
Whereas the piston hammer, that weapon, you'd probably be able to buy it somewhere.
Any artificer could make it.
Any artificer can make it. Yep. Cool. I like it.
I do too.
All right. Good. Because, we need that information for later.
Sure. All right, so there's our 3 basic items, and there's a lot more here. On page 200 and 201, there's a lot of dialing in for specific things, like what skill it uses. You want to pay attention to that. Limited ammo, guided, linked. It gives you, kind of ballparks on many of these.
Yep. Oh yeah, it was even saying prepare and slow firing. Both of these qualities represent extra time, so they should be 1 or 2. Waiting 3 rounds before using something is makes merely worthless to people. But having to spend strain, it's like, I'll spend the strain to attack again with the thing.
Yeah, and I like having a hammer that you got to crank up to make more powerful. That's so cool.
When you select a blast rating, use the same guidelines you were for determining base damage for weapons. Can have slightly lower damage than the weapon's damage, which we did. The blast rating is basically half the amount of damage, right?
Right, and that's generally what you'll find on most blast weapons. That's usually either 2/3 or half the damage of the original.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
All right. Well, folks, that's your basic weapon and armor and gear creation. But we created our own setting.
Yes.
And it's a magic setting.
But we have more, everybody.
Yes. But wait, there's more.
But wait. That's right.
So if you'll remember our last Advantageous Threats, my character was using something called a buzz cleaver.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what I decided was we would go ahead and I've already done most of the work for it, but I've designed the buzz cleaver. Now, when we created the Artificer class, we decided that one of the things is that they were going to get a starting implement. And their implement could either be a buzz cleaver or a blaster cannon. So this is a melee weapon that uses the Artifice skill, or a blaster weapon that uses the Artifice skill.
Right.
And it's counted as an implement. So the buzz cleaver, its implement side of it. Buzz cleavers are one of the two implements commonly used by artificers. A buzz cleaver is an alchemy-powered device that channels an artificer's attacks and other spells. It can also be used as a normal weapon that uses the artifice skill to wield. In this case, what it does as far as an implement is it reduces the cost of the empowered action for spells by 1.
Gotcha. That's
so
cool.
It's now I thought about either doing that or giving. Now see that one that was what the Artificer implement for the blaster cannon did. And I thought, I'd keep it the same. But now that I'm looking at it and thinking, I want this to be different. I want it to stand out, and I completely forgot about a different weapon quality. Or spell quality. I honestly think this should reduce the cost of close combat being added to attack spells.
I think so too. Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and change that to close combat.
Because close combat is normally a +1 difficulty. This one you will not have to. You'll automatically get the close combat added. You can add it for free.
Yeah. So reduces the cost of close combat added to attack spells.
Yeah.
All right.
That's cool.
So, but we need regular weapon stats because, as an artificer, I can just wield this thing as a weapon, wade into combat with it. So, looking at what I've got here, I've got a very vicious-looking chainsaw axe-like thing, right?
Yes.
But it's also got a much smaller blade than your standard axe.
So Realms of Tyrnoth?
So I went to Realms of Tyrnoth, and well, it's not really smaller blade. It's much what I'd call a much more vicious-looking blade. Gives you a hint of what quality I added. The axe is normally uses melee light. In this case, we're going to upgrade it to melee heavy. Or artifice, sorry. It uses artifice. But it requires 2 hands to wield.
Okay.
Just so you know. Damage is going to be +3. Crit is going to be 3, just like the axe.
Makes sense.
The engaged range, encumbrance of 2, all those stay the same. They have a rarity of 1 for axes. Mine is obviously a much more rare item. If you're not an artificer, it's I would actually say this is more like a 5.
Okay.
Rarity 5 item. And then I gave it a couple of qualities here. So mine is it's got vicious just like the axe, but I increased it to 2. Vicious 2. It's going to have Sunder also.
Ooh.
And then we also gave it the Prepare of 1. So in order to use it, you're going to have to, kick it in motion. It's powered, so you gotta power it up each time you go to use it for just a regular melee weapon.
Nice.
Requires a maneuver. So going back to our table that we used for the cost calculation, we have a base of 0. We're starting at 0 with a damage of +3, so total of 6. So our base cost is $250.
Yep.
Then crit rating of 3, add $150 for a total of $400. And then
engage range, so it doesn't add anything.
Adding, nothing for engage range.
Not cumbersome or unwieldy.
Nope. No burn, ensnare, or linked. No defensive deflection. No disorient, accurate, or stun. No concussive. So we just go to the other qualities. So with Vicious 2, Vicious
200.
is 200. It's total of 600 now.
Sunder would probably be a 250 quality, right? Yeah.
Sunder is a 250 quality. I believe it listed it as that. It doesn't say on the next page. Sunder is not listed, but I think that stands for a 250. So what that puts us is at 850. And then the prepare of 1, just take 75 off of that.
Just subtract 75. Okay.
So
that's equal to 400, 600, 8, 9, 25?
No, subtracting, that would be 775. 850.
Sorry, I did it the other way.
So 775.
And 5.
And that gives us a weapon that's usable by artificers as well as being an implement. Now, since it's an implement...
Well, because it's a melee weapon, though, do we reduce the cost of 500? Or by 50%?
Because it's an implement, I don't think we should.
Okay.
I think it's... Because normally it would be a melee weapon because it uses the melee skill, but because this uses the artifice skill, I would not reduce it.
Cool. Well, here's a question for you, though.
Sure.
If we do, say we do 50%, right? It makes it just under 400, so we can round it up to 400, which is the same as a magic staff or wand.
Now you have me convinced.
It gets in that. Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, but the Druid Circlet is 750.
But those can't be used as a melee weapon as well.
Oh,
you're basically getting 2 devices.
I see what you mean there. Yeah. I mean, you can hit somebody with a staff.
Right.
Maybe
true.
not a wand, but you can hit somebody with a staff, right?
That's true. But it's certainly not going to be as lethal as if you were just wielding a buzz cleaver.
Gotcha.
So that was why I decided I think we shouldn't just divide it in half.
Shouldn't? Yeah.
Should not, because it is an implement as well as a weapon. So you're getting two bangs for your buck.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And you get to make handy-dandy chainsaw noises while using it.
Now, does it add any to the damage of your spells?
Oh, well, yeah.
Do you add
probably
3?
Plus 3.
Yeah.
Add 3 to the damage of spells. Yeah.
Plus 3 damage.
Got a good point there.
Well, because I was just looking at the magic staff and the wand. The wand adds plus 3. Mm-hmm. The staff adds plus 4. Yeah, I see this more of a plus 3, maybe.
No, that's great. That's what it adds to the melee attack. Adds plus 3 brawn. Yeah. I think it adds plus 3 to the spell as well.
Yeah, cool. All right, rock on. Well,
okay.
That's our buzz cleaver, everybody.
Nice.
Kick-ass weapon, dude.
All right. The last item, we have some,
types of items.
Yes, you've heard us talk about it. Mm-hmm. This is, if you listen to our show at all, we have in our setting, we have the Fey God Kings. These immense, unknowable creatures. Mm-hmm. Cthulhu-like noble beings that ruled over everything and kept everyone as slaves for eons.
Almost kind of makes me think of like Greek Titans.
Yes.
As what, like Kronos and whatever. Yeah.
However, they all did.
Yeah. There are pieces of them all over the place.
And there are pieces of them everywhere. And so those bits and pieces, we gave a name. Mm-hmm. Called them Fey Crystals.
Yes.
And I have a little blurb here I'm going to read that I wrote. A Fey crystal is a substance harnessed from the crystallized remains of the Fey god kings. It comes in a variety of forms, and here are the known forms of Fey crystal. The first of which, I'll read here, the golden Fey crystal is rumored to have originated from the brains and vital organs of the fallen Fey god kings. When used as an implement in a spell, it allows the caster to perform a spell that is normally prohibited by his or her magic type at a base difficulty of formidable, or 5 purple dice.
Yep.
That's base. Basic spell.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, say, a fire mage and you want to heal, you can use a Fey God Crystal to heal.
Yep.
You normally could not do.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's going to be a 5 purple difficulty to do. And if you want to do anything special other than the base 5, you're going to have to upgrade instead of increase difficulty.
Yeah. Make those purples the reds.
On the chart. Yeah. So, for instance, choosing additional target for your heal normally increases that difficulty by 1.
Yep.
Well, in this case, it's going to upgrade one of those 5 purple dice to a challenge die.
1 red, 4 purple, just to heal more than one person at once. Ouch.
Yeah, you're healing with fire.
Counterintuitive, but it's cauterizing. Hello, that's got to give me a bonus.
But what this also allows you to do, though, is that, because one of the things written in the magic section of the book is that any spell with a difficulty higher than 5 is impossible.
Yep.
It cannot be cast, any total amount. Mm-hmm. What this allows you to do, though, is even spells that you normally can do, like, for instance, a fire mage using an attack, but adding a bunch of modifiers to it. He then would roll a 5 purple difficulty and upgrade for each of those modifiers he wanted to add to it, up to a grand total of 5 red dice. What's that mean? You still can't get over 5. You're still not creating a great spell. So this isn't broken. That's why.
So basically, my fire mage will be able to resurrect somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's going to be a 4 red, 1 purple check.
But it allows your prohibited magic to work.
But I need the Fey Crystal to do it.
Yes. And I actually, I'll get into, I did use a Golden Fey Crystal as a bit of a MacGuffin in one of our sessions. Cool. But I'll get into that later. Mm-hmm. What's the next one, Chris?
The next one is a Fey Blood Crystal. Is a ruby colored and is said to have come from the hearts and blood of the Fey God Kings. It is used as a fuel replacement for steam-powered tech. This will decrease the weight of that tech by 1/2, but it increases the cost by 5. And it'll last for years. So we'll get into more of the steam-powered mecha stuff in a future show as well, but this fuel is, you just have a crystal that'll fuel your mech, for years if you want.
Right. And I even thought about going and like creating small versions, tiny little versions of these that you could use to like like you could use as like fuel for spells or something, but I hadn't gotten that far yet where it would be balanced. And that's something we have to play test out. So,
and then this could be, any steam powered tech. So your the airships, maybe some of the ships too.
That steam dune buggy you guys were riding around in the desert with.
Steam dune buggy. Yeah, baby.
All right. And then the next kind, and these are the only 3 that I have right now. We may have more later, but the Alabaster Fey Crystal is the rarest of the Fey crystals and is said to be harnessed from the Fey God King's teeth, horns, and claws. To describe it, I would go, it's kind of whitish in color, usually flecked with some sort of orange or reds or greens. So that kind of gives it a distinctive look. And the rule is, when used as an implement in an attack spell or as a construction material for a weapon, it adds the Breach 1 quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
Simple enough.
Right, yeah. So what does Breach mean, everybody? It ignores 10 points of soak from armor.
Now imagine a spell that does that.
Yeah.
That's why these are rare.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to be the rarest of the rare.
Right.
They're going to be your story MacGuffins. They're rarity 10.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very few people or things are going to see them. You're going to find weapons in this system. The artifact type relic weapons are made out of this.
Yep. They can damage the hulls of ships, and you could damage you can damage your mechs and stuff with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty nasty.
So,
Nasty.
It gives you an idea of what our Primordial Machina setting stuff we've been working on for gear and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, sweet.
You have anything else you want to add to this section, Chris?
I do not. This is cool. I like going through these and working through creating items and such.
Yeah, and we did get some cool items created, sent to us on that email from GM Goodmo. We'll get into those next time. We just don't have the time for them this time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, then. Well, let's get into the next. You want to set the tone there, Tony?
Let's go set the tone. Welcome to Setting the Tone, folks. This is where we normally are going to open up the books and talk about one of the fluffy sections of one of the settings. But we're not doing that this time. This is really kind of like our audible section. We just do whatever we want in this section, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I wanted to kind of talk about my play test, our play test that we did of Primordial Machina, and how it's going. Chris is pretty much done with it. The rest of the group has like 2 more adventures, and then we're done with it. Mm-hmm. So we'll start out with the characters we had. I don't know if we've talked about all those before, but we had Chris and my friends Dave, Jen, and Dale from my Grognard group, mm-hmm. and Daryl the Gaming Whore.
Yeah,
started out with that. That was our core group. Our beloved Gaming Whore, I should say.
Yes, he is beloved.
And so, what'd you make, homie?
I made a fire amalgam.
Fire amalgam.
Specialized in magiques. Right.
And which one did you choose?
The fire amalgam.
Fire amalgam is your race, but you chose fire mage also, right?
I did. Yeah. Oh, sorry. The element I picked was fire.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
That's right. You can't make me drink. Still feeling good, man.
Yep. Jamalto Fear, your fire amalgam fire mage elementalist.
Yeah, he's fun. That's a presence-based character, so he had some leadership qualities and the fire mage blasting stuff was fun. It always is. Yeah. Now, that's pretty cool.
Okay, and then we also had, just to go through the group, we had Jen, who was playing a human intellectual archetype, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And she made the artificer, or the mad scientist.
Yeah.
And
she picked the ranged weapon for her implement, right?
Yes, she picked the artificer blaster, mm-hmm. as her initial implement, and she's been using that to great effect. She's done some modifications to it to make it just freaking deadly.
Nice.
And she gave it the impact quality so that it just when it hits, things go flying.
Nice.
When she hits with it. That was Olivia. Then we had Dave was playing for a while. He was playing a air amalgam sniper
type, yeah.
But that character died in the middle of the campaign. Mm-hmm. So he ended up then making an earth amalgam soldier.
Cool.
And then let's see, what else did we have? We had
Dale.
Dale. Oh yeah, Dale decided to play a Machina, Clockwork Machina pilot named J13. And that was interesting, having him, constantly climbing out of his Machina and joining the group. Every time we'd go into a city, he'd have to check it in. Yes. I have to walk around naked. I feel so naked. Now I know what you humans feel like when you don't wear clothing.
Nice. Had to park his horse, if you will.
And then lastly, we had Lawson Graves, our revenant gunslinger, played by Daryl himself.
Yeah.
So we had a good mix of characters, and we also had Stefan, who wanted to come on and playtest his, for one session, he came on and playtested his race that he submitted for our game. His, what is he called? The Pierced Cyclops.
The Pierced Cyclops, yep.
Yes. Hayame the Mountain.
Hayame the Mountain.
Yes. And he was a paladin and knight of the Triad of Synchrony. It was pretty cool. I think the Cyclops probably isn't going to be this one we choose when we finally go to choose, or maybe we'll put them both in and have the Cyclops as an optional race, because I really, really, really like the one that Sam set forth to us with the Fey touched.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So, anyhow, so yeah, we started our first session. We went into one of the cities. Which city was it we went into first?
I think it was the Air City, not the Air City, but it was like the Port City.
Is that Rope City?
The Rope City.
Yes.
I was worried about walking around
Crown.
Being a fire amalgam. Yep. Am I going to burn these ropes or what?
We started out in the city of Shattered Crown, which is the crown of a huge one of the Fey God Kings that rests on the ground, and underneath it is this huge crater, and built in this crater is this rope city.
Yeah.
Underground beneath that are these tremendous mines that mine coal and Fey crystal alike, and basically making this a huge trade city. One of the largest in the world. It's kind of like the trade hub, and it's got this what I would consider what they call the rope market, and this huge market square, and just hanging out in the middle of space, with all held together by planks and ropes, and pretty scary when you're a fire mountain.
Yeah, pretty much.
But in that first session, your fire amalgam met his future wife, his girlfriend.
So yeah, she was an air amalgam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, air and fire going together. Yep.
Yep.
And I think I stood her up for our first date, though, because we had things and stuff to do. And
so then we went down into the bowels of the Undercity to hunt some air pirates that were hiding down there.
Oh yeah.
And you ended up capturing the one, and then you and Stefan came along and filled in for the second session, and you missed a session, which was you making it up to your girlfriend and going on a big date with her, and totally surprising her and making it up to her. And she was just for the record, she was a magic wares salesperson. She had an implement shop, because you guys ended up visiting her again, or jewelry shop. That's what it was.
Jewelry shop. Yep.
Yep, she was a jewelry vendor, which she had some magic jewelry, as we got into later.
Maybe when some Fey crystals, right? Would she probably have sold Fey crystals? I'm sure.
Yep, I think I believe she was the one that sold the Fey crystal to J13 to power his Machina. At any rate, so I did the second session. Everybody was that's when we added on Dave's character, and you and Stefan weren't there, so we kind of did the different group kind of thing. Did him taking the prisoner to his home city, and you doing the date with your girl, and then him, and then Dave's character coming along. He was a mercenary, the mercenary assassin, sniper. So he did. He kind of gave me the direction for that one, and they had some bandits that they had to capture, and in the process, they found out about more of the air pirate crew who had left the city and headed south into these ancient ruins in this desert that was in the south. So they rented a dune buggy.
Nice.
For everybody who wasn't going to be riding or running or flying in a piece of equipment they already had. Actually, no, they did not rent the dune buggy that time. I'm sorry. We had Jen's character. She bought a motorcycle. That's what it was. She bought a steam-powered motorcycle. Daryl's character, the Revenant, he bought an undead horse. Nice. To drive to run around on. Dave's character, the Air Amalgam, just flew, and J13 ran around in his Machina, gave him a chance to run across the desert in his Machina.
Nice.
So we had this mixed group heading into the desert, and that went really well. We went into some ruins, did kind of a dungeon crawl.
Cool.
And ended up fighting their first ancient monstrosities of the dead Fae, some of their leftover remnants of their society, with these mutated lions that they fought.
Cool.
And then they also fought a ghost down inside the tunnels there, and then at the end of it all, the rest of the pirates that they were trying to capture. So nice. It ended up being a real good session.
Cool.
Then we visited Calder, and that's where I added the
Praetorians.
You guys, the Praetorians. That's where I added in the Praetorians being undead, and because of their new undead king, they are now undead supremacists, and that was a new element that I added to the story arc of our. So, what do you think of that?
I enjoyed that element being that there's this large group city that's kind of a that could be enemies, like an enemy state, enemies of the characters, or create a whole lot of conflict in the world there. And I remember that session we did some air combat. In like a vehicle combat, which we kind of worked through. I think we hung out afterwards and kind of worked through some issues with, being able to do damage. And I mean, you had a friggin' dragon attack.
Yes, a dragon attacking the airship, and with the airship weapons, and with J13 in his Machina.
Yeah.
It's about all you guys were able to do damage to it with, because I was treating it as a vehicle because it was so big.
I think I was doing some leadership checks to kind of help people. I might have been buffing people because my attacks with my fire amalgam just weren't gonna damage the dragon. So it was more about buffing everybody else up and such, playing the support character, which is cool. I like that. That's pretty awesome.
So vehicle combat really kind of needed a little bit more tweaking and robust rule management for a system that uses magic and vehicle combat, and that's where Fey crystals came in that actually produce the breach quality, allowing casters to want to really search for those so that they can, breach. There are creatures out there that do damage on a weapon scale, or on a vehicle weapon scale.
Ouch. Ouchies.
So then, landing in the city of Calder, that was really our first trek into a manifest zone, and like the oppressive heat of the city that is built on this fire zone, and how everyone just was constantly suffering strain when they were outdoors, except for you. Well, actually, no, it wasn't really everyone except you, because it didn't affect the Revenant, and it didn't affect the Clockwork. It only really affected the Air Amalgam and the Human.
Yeah, that's true.
And then we did. You missed another session. And I did this. I'm not going to reveal too much about this adventure because this is one I'm probably going to be running at Con on the Cob. But we had a masquerade ball
Oh, yeah.
That everybody went to and ran basically an entire social encounter that was based on someone wanting to use unwitting participants in a ritual.
Awesome. That's all I got to say about that, then.
Yes. They came out of that relatively unscathed. Mm-hmm. But in the process, one of the characters was betrayed by a friend. And so that friend ended up repaying the group with several. She owned an artificer shop. And she ended up repaying them for her betrayal with some things from her store for free. Cool. So everybody walked away with some boons from that. Nice. And then we headed to the Knight's Citadel.
Oh yeah.
In the home of the Triad of Synchrony, to petition them for because you guys were wanting to use this pirate ship that you kept, basically because the MacGuffin at the beginning of this is one character needed something that the pirates had, another character has a vengeance against the pirates, and another character works for an organization that is anti-pirate. Yep. So it all started. That's how you guys kind of all came together, trying to stop air pirates from the city of Brinehearth. We had a tribunal there where the Triad, the three met, and we had another major social encounter there.
Yeah, we were trying to convince them to hold on to, what do we have, like the Hearts of the Dragon or something? What did we have?
Yes. One of the things that, I completely forgot about that. When you guys slipped on Calder, I had given you guys in pieces, hidden on your ship and on the other two ships that were flying with you, the pieces of a Draco-Lich's phylactery.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That when assembled or put in the same place, allowed one to summon this ancient Draco-Lich.
Yeah.
And so you guys wanted them to take it because you didn't want them
piece. We wanted them to take a piece of it.
And the other pieces are you're trying to scatter these things around.
Yeah, we are.
To prevent someone from using them.
And I remember that frickin' social encounter. Me being the social guy, I think I think I got thrown out. You threw me out. I was rolling so badly.
Yes. The old woman knight. Yeah. She ended up casting you from the chamber because you were so belligerent and fiery.
Yeah, the frickin' droid did better than me.
Yeah, J13 actually is the one who eventually convinced them to take it.
Yes.
And they gave you their patronage to invade the city of Brinehearth. Mm-hmm. So you would be doing so, invading a pirate citadel with their patronage, and therefore carrying almost like marshals badges across when you fly in. So you're basically working as privateers for their organization now.
Yes.
And that's where we left off. We had one session where you guys went back to the desert. One session where you kind of fought part of another session where they fought a giant fire giant. But at the end of it all, I mean, so far, that's where we're at. Trying to cover the entire continent, flying all around to these various places.
Yep.
And so what has been the major feel for you of the campaign so far? What has been the overarching theme?
For me, it felt very I'll come back to it. Pirates of the Spanish Main for me. Mm-hmm. Being privateers and fighting pirates, and this exploration in a world that's I definitely got the steampunk vibe from it for sure. Right? I mean, that I really got that. And yeah. I mean, I've enjoyed it a lot. And I think it did capture the feel that we were kind of going for, the tone that
we ended up going more for a high fantasy, steampunk, high action kind of setting, as opposed to what my original concept, which was going to be more of a horror bent. But you
was...
could totally do that in that setting. Do more of the dungeon crawling type horror into these ancient ruins, because there's definitely all these monstrous horrors still out there, hidden in the world, leftovers, remnants of the Fey gods and their kingdom.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that is the tone that it more attracted the group that we had. Was the
higher magic.
Everybody bid on the Sky Pirates kind of thing. They really enjoyed that.
They liked it. Yeah.
And they bid on that, and they wanted to do, I want to be, as soon as everyone was like, I want to hate the Sky Pirates that are from here so that we can all go fight them. And then everybody kind of worked together to kind of come up with that background story.
Well, I think my character ended up becoming the captain of this ship, of our airship.
Yes, he did.
So,
yes.
With the other players being, they had their roles on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
I think Daryl's Revenant was like the main gunner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Had his gunnery crews and such. Yeah.
J13 is your deck master.
Yep.
Olivia was your first mate. And then Dave's Earth Amalgam that eventually ended up being the quartermaster.
Yep. So that was cool.
Yeah. Great thing so far. So that's pretty much our playtest and how it's kind of played out for us, folks.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job pulling in all those elements that we were talking about, and I think you've captured Primordial Machina for me.
Yeah.
And when I played, I know it kind of goes, I flipped my Saturday night group, so I really couldn't. And now they're kind of lining up, so I won't be able to make yours. But
well, that's okay. Like I said, we're only going to do 2 more sessions, and we got one where they've got to stop on the border lands. Kind of, they got to stop there to talk to someone and pick up somebody, and then they were headed into the pirate citadel.
Nice, awesome.
So
good luck, guys.
All right, so hopefully we'll be able to play in the near future, and I'll have the final results of that, and then hopefully by Con on the Cob time, maybe after, of this year, which would be October. I hope to have the document completely done.
Yeah.
Complete,
we'll get that done.
Complete with some pre-gen characters. So you may actually, I'm thinking probably these will be the pre-gen characters.
Cool.
And then at their finest, maybe not at their 265 current earned XP versions, maybe more like their 100 earned XP versions. But and I really like the idea of invading, writing up the adventure about the masquerade ball and that whole thing, and the social encounter that involved. So I look forward to it.
Yeah,
doing and maybe even having the adventure in there for players, to people who want to do our setting. So
yep.
Right. That's setting the tone.
All right. So how about we go to our favorite part of the show?
Yeah, let's get out of here. Oh, we still got Advantageous Threats.
All right, everybody. We are back for Advantageous Threats. This is where Tony and I create a scenario for each other that we gather the dice up, roll some dice, which I haven't got those out yet. I need to get those out. And
you and me both. Great radio. We're grabbing our dice.
We're grabbing the dice. And if you hear that, there they are, everybody.
Oh, awesome.
They're coming out. All 6 sets of them. No.
So you want me to go first, bud?
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay. So, Geyser Broadrock, the Earth Amalgam Artificer, is back.
That's right.
He's in, again, Primordial Machina. He's attempting, if you remember in our last session, he repaired his Buzz Cleaver. And so now he is going to attempt to cast a spell. He's in the middle of a car chase. He needs to cast a heavy lightning bolt from his Buzz Cleaver to the car right next door at short range. Now, what I mean by heavy lightning bolt, that is a base attack with the lightning and empowered qualities added to it. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So his Buzz Cleaver was damaged, so it still has medium damage. He was only able to repair at 1 level. So it's going to add 1 to the difficulty of any actions using it.
All right.
So a heavy lightning bolt normally is attack 1 difficulty, lightning 2 difficulty, empowered 3 and 4 difficulty. So for this particular one, I'm dealing with 5 difficulty dice. And then my GM's going to screw me over. What's next?
Well, let me see here. So you are in a mid-car chase.
Yeah, bouncing across the desert.
You're bouncing across the desert. So why don't you add a setback die because of that unstable platform that you're on?
Copy that.
For
Got it in
sure.
There. All right.
And you're an Earth amalgam, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Going across the desert.
Yep.
Are you near a manifest zone?
Nope. We are not in an Earth manifest zone. This is just an open, blasted desert. Mad Max style. All right,
Mad Max style.
I'm going to aim. It's an attack spell. I can't aim. In fact, I really want to hit with this thing. I'm going to burn through a little extra strain and take not only the 2 for casting it, but an additional 2 strain to add in another setback die or boost die for aiming twice.
Cool. Well, I'd like to actually upgrade this to check difficulty.
Mm-hmm. You would,
because lightning is a tricky element, man. And with all this sand around here, it might be generating some electrostatic electricity. You might not be able to control the lightning enough. That's my excuse.
Well, I'm saving my story point.
Yes.
For after if I hit. So I'm looking at a pool right now of 3 yellow, 1 green for my artifice, 2 boost dice for my aiming, a total of 5 difficulty dice. One of them upgraded to a challenge die thanks to the GM's jerkiness, and
awesome.
one setback die due to the bouncy nature of firing in a car chase.
Yeah.
So here we go.
That sounds like a lot of dice.
All right. First and foremost, no despair.
Aww.
Love that. All right. But I had a lot of blank dice. I had 3 blank dice in this pool.
Ooh.
So I missed. I ended up having a net of 2 failure and 5 advantage.
Oh.
So I miss hitting this enemy vehicle with my lightning bolt. But
you were going to hit the vehicle or somebody in the vehicle?
I was aiming for the driver particularly, hoping to make them crash.
Well, I'm pretty sure the lightning that you missed him with hit the car itself, and with your advantage, you might be able to make his piloting check more difficult, like an automatic upgrade or something, if you think.
I like the idea of, since it's 5 advantage, I like that idea. The lightning hits the side of the car, and it's arcing all over the vehicle, and then at that particular minion group, whether they choose to fight or drive from there, is going to get an upgraded check.
Cool. I like it.
Okay.
Awesome, dude. Awesome.
Too bad I didn't hit, because that would have done a shite load of damage with Empowered and Lucky Strike.
Awesome. Well, hey, speaking of a lot of damage,
all right,
I have a character named Glug. He is a revenant who had drowned at sea. That's how he died, and revenants are the undead.
Great name for a revenant.
Well, because that's what it sounded. That was the first sound that he made when he got up. He was like, "What's your name?" Glug, Glug, right? So, and he didn't remember.
Nice.
It's in Primordial Machina. He's attacking a Praetorian heavy trooper with his superior piston hammer.
Oh, I see what you did there.
You see what I did there? So that's why I was making all those notes on the stuff that we made up there so we could do this.
Nice.
He has a brawn of 4, because Glug, he's a big dude. He has 2 ranks in melee heavy, plus he has 2 talents. One is the Berserk talent, where he adds 1 success and 2 advantage, But the attackers will get a success when they hit an automatic success when they hit him, though we won't be going through that. And then at the end of the encounter, he'll take 6 strain. So that's what the Berserk talent does. And then I've got Lucky Strike linked to Brawn, and that's probably the one you're going to use. So he'll be able to add 4 to damage with a story point if he so hits and desires. So to start with, we have a 2 yellow, 2 green, plus 1 success, plus 3 advantage, because 2 advantage from Berserk, 1 advantage from being a superior piston hammer, versus 2 purple.
Nice.
Now, if we look at our Praetorian Heavy Trooper armor, I believe they have a defensive 2. So I'll add 2 setback die right away.
Okay. So you don't have anything in here about the environment or anything like that. So
I did not. So let's make it. So where is this happening at? Probably in the fire.
This is happening on a rickety rope bridge.
Awesome.
Over a lava pit.
Oh, I see what you're doing there.
In Calder.
Oh. Okay. So do you think this rickety bridge, rope bridge, would increase the difficulty or just add setback?
It's a chain bridge. Sorry, it's chain and stone. I mean, in a lava city, you're going to need chain and stone, not rope.
Well, but, that's true.
I wouldn't call it rickety. I guess it would be more along the lines of just unstable. Unstable.
So a setback die, right, for an unstable platform kind of thing?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Now, my piston hammer is cumbersome 4. However, I do have a brawn of 4, so that's fine.
So you're good there.
I'm good there.
All right. So
it's already been prepared, by the way.
And I assume since you're possibly going to use Lucky Strike that you're not going to upgrade?
I'm not, but I am going to aim. And I'm actually going to aim. I'm going to spend some strain and aim twice, too.
I like this. It sounds familiar.
It does.
All right. All right. So the reason why I'm fighting over a lava pit. That's got to be an automatic upgrade, just without you spending. The reason why I set this above a lava pit, it's going to be a reason for me to flip a story point.
Well, maybe you don't even. Well, okay. So you're going to flip it because we're fighting over lava.
Oh yeah, it's far enough away. I mean, people normally use this bridge. It's not a big deal, but occasionally you might get a bubble that pops down below and some lava shoots up.
All right.
So yeah, let's do that.
All right. So I'm left with 2 yellow, 2 green, 2 purple, or 2 blue. I mean, a red, a purple, and 3 setback dice, 3 black. All right, here we go. Nice and colorful here. Okay, no despairs, though I didn't hit you. Because I didn't generate enough successes to hit you. Boy, this is... Dude, 1 failure, 1 advantage.
1 failure, 1 advantage. That's your net.
Because all of my threat... So I got 1 threat on each of my... So 2 of my black dice have a failure. My 1 yellow... blank. My other yellow, 1 success, 1 advantage, and then my other dice, 1 advantage on each. So all that cancels down to yes.
All right.
1 failure, 1 advantage.
Since you did not hit, your piston hammer does not fire.
Oh, wait a second. Hang on a minute.
You forgot your ones for the automatic ones.
I got a success. Oh, darn it. Still canceled, so it's a boot. But I do get 3 advantage, so it's actually 4 advantage.
All right. Well, in this case, not hitting means your piston hammer did not fire off.
It did not. It did not. Well, can't you activate blast anyways? I think I can activate blast anyways, even if you miss.
Yes, you can.
Which is what I'm going to do. I think you can, right?
Yes, blast? You can. It takes 2 advantage, and you got to miss. And everyone at engaged range. That's
if
including
it misses,
you.
Oh, it's 3. It's 3.
It's 3?
Yep.
3 advantage. Sorry, yeah.
3 advantage.
But you have 3.
Yep, I do. I have 4. So sweet. The original target and every target engaged with the original target suffers a hit dealing damage equal to the blast rating of the weapon. Yay! So I take 4.
4.
And he'll soak.
You'll both soak it.
Yeah, we'll both soak it because we're big and brawny.
Now, you could do that, or you could just, with 4 advantage, you could have some other cool effect.
What weapon is he using?
Let's say he's using the standard Praetorian gun. Praetorian rifle, yes.
Gun / melee weapon kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. It's a gun with an axe.
So what I do, let's say this, I'll actually spend the 3 or 4 advantage. He blocks with it. He blocks the piston hammer with the gun, and I hit it so hard it just knocks it out of his hand onto the ground. So I disarm him.
All right, basically. So it flies back across the bridge, going down the bridge behind him.
Yeah, he'll have to move,
sliding
and get it.
And now sits precariously teetered on the edge like it's going to fall into the lava.
Yes, exactly.
That's much better. That's better than wasting it on a blast that wouldn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, thinking of that, I'm like, ooh, I could blast him, but no.
Yeah, well, you gotta think things through.
Yeah, and I didn't hit, so I couldn't use my lucky strike and do all kinds of damage to him.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe someday.
Maybe we'll do round 2 in a few weeks.
Yeah. All right.
We ready to go home? Go put this thing to bed? All right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's our show for tonight. And I would like to shout out to the brewery run by Jamie Pierson over there that does, he talks random dorky stuff. He's taking it back to his original Gathering of Dork days kind of round table format, talking about whatever. I think a couple weeks ago they had a Game of Thrones discussion, and what was their latest one? I think he's been throwing up videos of him playing like Rune Wars and such too, and we have the live play that Tony's running for Jamie, Daryl, and I through his homebrewed adventure for Shadow of the Beanstalk.
Yep. That adventure's called 48 Hours Till Midnight.
That's right.
Yeah, and so far we've had session 1, and that came out last Thursday. It's every Thursday night we do live plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have I'm playing a cyborg investigator, which I didn't mention a cyborg part when I introduced my character, okay. But I'll mention it next time. Jamie's playing a Biroid runner named, what is it, 1257X, and I've been calling him Christmas. And then
I've kind of ruined it. I was listening to the another podcast, and Sam Stewart was on there, and he said that I don't know where it came up, but it came up in the Shadow of the Beanstalk takes place in 79, in the year of 79. That's when it takes, and in whatever century you want it to be. Uh-huh. And I'm like, before that, I had told Jamie that it took place in 59. So he wanted his character to be 2 years old. So he named his character 1257.
Nice.
And then
born in December.
I'll be retconning that date back to 1259 for fairness to Jamie and his character.
Perfect.
Just for the record.
And I think Daryl, he's playing a loony courier.
Yeah.
Named Klaus, and I've been calling him Clash, and I've been calling him Santa.
It's Clash.
Santa Clash. Santa
He
Claus.
does a Belter accent from The Expanse well.
Yes, he does. That was so good. I loved it. So, you can watch those on and other live streams for the brewery on Twitch, and he also has a YouTube channel out there too, and he's on the Mayways and all of that, and I'll have those links in the show notes.
Yep, and he is the father of Nerds International Network, so you can contact Jamie over at Nerds International, as well as us on Mayway, and you can go to hold of me or Stefan at Finding the Narrative on Facebook. You can email us, findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com. We love those long 7-page. I got to spend 2 hours reading it emails.
We do.
Actually, I do. Any email we get, I love. I can't. So I'm not complaining. I'm just kind of laughing because it's the way it's been lately. It's trendy. And then Stefan, of course, is monitoring the Twitter feed over at FTN_Genesis. And we're listenable on Finding the Narrative Podcast at Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, maybe soon to Spotify. We'll see. We had a listener request that. Chris is going to look into getting us on there. So,
yep.
That being said, this is Tony saying goodbye and keep rolling them bones.
And this is Chris saying remember the rule of cool and just have fun, everybody. Night-night.
See ya.
Finding the Narrative, a Genesis RPG podcast, is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned in this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding the Narrative, a Genesis RPG podcast. Copyright 2019, all rights reserved.